Hello, everyone. Welcome to the newest podcast about kayak bass fishing in the nation. If you're here to talk kayaks and kayak fishing, you're in the right spot. Your host, John Suits, brings you into the exciting world of Greenfish Nation and all it has to offer. We will have special guests from product manufacturers as well as the end users from the ground level angler up to the big boy pros. The show starts right now, so get your paddles ready and let's get started.
Well, hello, everybody. It's John again with Greenfish Nation, coming to you live from the Beyond the Paddle studios right here in Point, Texas. Guys, tonight I got a very special guest. Just can't say enough good things about him and his channel. I've been watching it for quite a while now. You can go to this man's channel and you can find out anything you need to know about fishing, from line to reels to techniques to baits to kayaks. I mean, he covers it all. Without further ado, guys, let's welcome JT Hickman of Fishing with Gramps. Welcome aboard, JT.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Anytime. I've been looking forward to this for, ever since I talked to you. I was like, all right, good deal. Good deal.
Shoot, yeah, I've been looking forward to it. It's always awesome to join other people's, talking to podcasts, especially when we get to talk fishing and kayaking and boats and all the goodies that we just love out there.
Absolutely. This is like I told you earlier in the green room. This is kind of new to me. This is a part of, I would say, my creator's career that I've kind of shied away from for a long time because it's not scripted,
Yeah.
Not that I do a whole bunch of scripting on my stuff anyway, but you know how it is. You're on the spot kind of deal. But with that being said, so what I'm going to do is, like I always do, I'm just going to turn the floor over to you and let you tell us, I should say, see there, not scripted. Let you tell us about your adventure as a creator, as a kayak fisherman, as a kayak bass fisherman, as a bass fisherman in general. The floor is wide open, JT. Just let us have it.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well, first of all, I appreciate you could let me come on tonight and talk a little bit. I got started fishing, my brother and I, when we were, youngsters here in Southern Indiana. My dad was in the Army and we traveled all over the world and lived everywhere. But whenever we would come home, it was back here to Southern Indiana. So my dad was more into kind of like the camping and running. He was all about that kind of lifestyle. And my grandfather Burl is the one who actually got my brother and I started into fishing. And he would take us out to some of the local creeks around here. And, it was just one of those things where we would, catch some bluegill, catch some crappie. But then it's like one of us caught a bass, and then the race to catch the next biggest bass was on. So for Jeremy and I's entire lives throughout our, high school days, it was always who could catch the next biggest bass. We both joined the Army and got out, and then we ended up actually fishing together. He was a guide down there on Lake Fork after he got out of the Army for a while. And then after we used to fish some team tournaments and things like that. And then I ended up eventually moving my family back up to Indiana, and he kind of came back up this way, a few years later. And, because, parents aging and, you kind of want to be around family. So, we moved back up here and we're still fishing, the old team trail, red man kind of stuff. And then life, kind of happened. You have kids and, you have to focus on things. And I tell this story about the last actual bass tournament in a boat that we ever fished. Was a team event. We were down there pre-fishing for, almost a week before the event. We get down there and it's storming, raining on the Madison River. And it was just horrible. I mean, we didn't catch any fish. The rain just pounded us. I thought my back was going to, explode from the boat ride back. And, drove home, come into the house. It's Sunday night, got to work the next morning. And, I'm just exhausted and grumbling. And my wife's like, you got a lot of nerve. I'm like, what? I was like, she's like, no, you got a lot of nerve coming in grumbling like that. She's like, you've been gone on vacation for almost the last week and you're going to come home complaining?
Yeah. So I got an interesting comment right here. I'm going to go ahead and drop this. So you can have a rebuttal here, okay?
He knows what my PB is. We both caught ours at Lake Fork.
Yeah.
He was actually, I don't think I was with him when he caught his because he was in his boat, but I caught mine. It was 8 pounds. I think it was 7 pounds. Bank fishing at one of the bridges there on Fork with a Terminator spinnerbait, and that was back in like 1998. It's been that long since I've caught a big fish, and I've never caught a DD. But that was my big bass. That was my big bass.
Yeah.
So yeah, he loves that. He's got that, but he spent a lot more time fishing on Fork than I did. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hear you. I caught my two biggest fish ever. I caught on Lake Fork, and I actually caught them on a Terminator spinnerbait on a gold Terminator, gold willow leaf blades with a fire tiger skirt on a stump in the back of Birch Creek. My wife and I were fishing. We were just dating at the time. I was just out of high school. So this is back like 93, 94. I'd been out of high school a couple of years, and I flipped that spinnerbait up there past that stump, and I rolled it across there. And good Lord, I'm telling you, I thought a war had broke out, and I got that sucker to the boat and weighed 1176. And just a few days later, I caught another one in that same creek, but on up about a mile, and he was 1175. So I was like, man, that spinnerbait right there. I've still got that spinnerbait, by the way.
I don't blame you.
I will never get rid of that thing.
It's one of those things that you just never forget. I mean, you really don't,
Oh yeah. That's, I live in the land of giants, because, I'm literally 7 minutes from Lake Fork, and I'm 4.5 hours from OH Ivy.
Oh my goodness.
I went out there one day. I don't know. It's been a year or so ago. Maybe 2 years now. It'll be 2 years this summer, but I was throwing my little girl. She's 11 now, and they've always been into fishing since they could walk. My son's 14. She's 11, but you remember the old man's, the great flat tail man's worm. It was 13 inches long. I told them, like, we would go to Academy or something, and I'd say, all right, y'all can pick you out a fishing lure. Well, she went back there, and, she was, at that time, she was probably 8 or 9, and she drags up this big old bag of 13-inch man's grape worms, and I said, what are you going to do with that? And she said, Daddy, big baits catch big fish.
Yeah.
I was like, you got a point. So we threw that bait a few times, and she didn't really get any bites on it, but I was out at Ivy one day, and I threw that bag of worms, and 5 fish. I had 35 pounds. The biggest one was just a little bit over 10 pounds, and the smallest one was about 6.
Isn't that crazy?
So we big fish bite big baits. So
yep. I think we've heard that from a lot of people too, though. But I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about Texas and a lot of those southern states where they just grow them big. I've always said, like one of my all-time dreams would be go out and fish in California, maybe at Lake Castaic, and then maybe a trip to Mexico someday to go like to El Salto, just for one of those monster giant monster giant bass that are down there too. It'd be just it'd be so cool. But I'm 55. I've still got plenty of time to catch me a DD before my days are done. And if I don't do it, I'm still going to have fun trying.
Hey, it's the quest of the chase.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've had my YouTube channel just about 2 years, and I'm very seriously, I can't decide if I want to start a new channel or have an offspring of this channel. I don't really want just a playlist, but I've been feeling a lot of leading, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
I love throwing giant swim baits, big glide baits, big baits. I love it. you're not going to catch as many fish as you would throw in a little shad wrap or
Yeah.
a chatterbait or whatever. But the fish you catch, you better be hanging on. But that's kind of ironic that you said, Castile and El Salto and all those places. I really want to start this. I can't decide if I'm going to make it a separate channel, but it's going to be called A Quest for Giants.
Yep.
And I'm a kayak fisherman. I've been a bass fisherman my whole life since I was 5 years old, kind of probably like you.
Yep.
I'm 53, but I want to quit fishing and I want to start hunting.
Yeah.
And I haven't decided yet. I've decided on the name, but I want to go to places like Castillo. I want to go to the Delta, and I want to go to to Okeechobee, and I want to go to Lake Garcia in Cuba, and I want to go to El Salto in Mexico.
Yeah.
I want to experience those places, and I want it all on video for my children and my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. So that's ironic that you brought that up. That's a goal for me as well.
That's one of the things my brother and I talked about this year is we're going to focus on this year. We're going to spend time chasing bigger fish. We kind of got sucked back into the tournament fishing a little bit too, because it's fun. And we had some goals, so we started out doing KBF and, doing a lot of the local stuff. And then the KBF National Championship, wanted to go qualify and, get a top 100 board at the KBF National Championship. We both achieved that. And we've got that again coming up here in a couple of, next month, actually. And then we want to turn our attention to, chasing those bigger fish.
Yeah.
And for us, smallies are kind of the target this year. And it's funny because where we grew up, there's smallies in the creeks around here, but they were never very big. But we were fishing around some places last year. And it's like, oh, hey, there's some, because we were fishing local tournaments, we were driving farther up north. And then we started finding out these guys are catching these like 18, 19, 20 inch, and bigger smallmouth bass. And I had no idea they really got that big. And so that's going to be like one of our quests this year. So I ended up catching my PB, which was 19 and a half at the end of the year last year. And before that, my brother had caught, the first 20 inch out of the group, throwing his blue fleck power worm, because that's all he ever throws. That dude only needs one rod.
Hey, it works, man.
He'll tell you the same thing. I mean, I've got all my rod and reel combos. He probably just needs one and a backup.
Well, you don't ever need to go back to a square wheel if a round one's turning. Fine.
He seems to find them just fine with that power worm. That is for sure. So that's like our goal this year is we're going to go out and capture some of the adventure and the places that we grew up fishing. And that one's not so much about being a big bass hunt as it is like showing other folks around Southern Indiana where we fish. And, and that way, if there's people that are visiting or coming here for work, or they live around here and they're just getting into it, we're going to kind of give them a little tour of what we've discovered over the last couple of years. And then we also want to kind of pursue some dreams, perhaps of, chasing big fish in different places and kind of getting out and around a little bit more. We'd like to go do a Bassmaster event because we've both been Bassmaster life members forever. And that would be kind of cool. And having Josh Franco here in Indiana go up to the Susquehanna River last year. Yeah, it was last year. And, won that event. So you got some local boy that's, like a Smalley Hammer here goes up and then just wins the whole Bassmaster event. So we want to go. We like doing the big tournaments. Not that we have grand, delusions of winning anything, but we like meeting all the people we love watching on YouTube. And that's really cool when, I can literally say one of, several of our friends, and we can truly call them friends now, are folks like Chad Hoover, Gene Jensen, the Fluke Master, Christine Fisher. And we've just met so many awesome people, Russ Snyders. I mean, it's just been a blessing to get to know these folks as, fans and fellow anglers. And we just respect the fact that they travel around and set the standard, and they're doing like the pro level thing, and it's really cool to go out and meet folks like that too. And that's the cool thing about these events is it's the bar to qualify is not super high. I mean, you got to be able to catch them, but you can, and then you can go and play in these tournaments against all these touring folks that
Right.
are doing this for a living, and it's really cool to get to know them.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's kind of like me starting this podcast, because the chances of me getting to know you prior
Yeah.
to this were probably, pretty small, because we're not running in the same circles, but this allows us to overlap those circles and get
Mhm.
to know each other. And that's my sole purpose on this podcast. Like I was telling you earlier, I've had some really good guests on here, and really got to, dropping comments and first one thing and another. And I've noticed those guys are now supporting my post and things on Facebook and
Yep.
on YouTube, and I'm doing them the same way. It's all about building a bigger, better community, for everyone. So that's the
And that's one of the things you'll notice
so
too is
much.
that's one of the things you'll notice too is the kayak community is so much different than what we've been around, and like a lot of the boater side for a lot of the years, where it's more cutthroat, competitive, keeping secrets. I mean, you go fish a kayak tournament with anybody, and you're catching them, and then hey, throw this, and do this, do that. We help each other out too. And the other cool thing is too is, like you said, now that we know each other, next year the Bassmaster Classic's in the DFW area, and
Absolutely.
guess who's going to be driving south? Me and Jeremy.
There you go. And we'll have to spend some time fishing around down here while you guys are
You
here.
got that right. Have trailer, will travel.
That's right. That's right. That's
Yeah, because
right.
our good friend Nick from Fishing Texas Kayak Trailers is down there in the just south of DFW too, in Glen Rose, Texas. So
Yep.
we'll be
Yep.
down there meeting up with him too. So that'd be really
That's
cool.
awesome. I actually talked to him. Speaking of him, I started. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I started a kayak trail. This year actually was our inaugural year. It's called Greenfish Nation Kayaks Tournaments, Trails, and Series, and it's kind of modeled after what Chad's got going on with KBF. It's before I go any further with it, I'll tell you how I was raised. My granddad graduated the 6th grade, but he died multi-millionaire. It doesn't matter how much money you have when you die, you're not taking any of it with you. But my point is my granddad taught me from a very young age, says, if you want to be successful and model yourself after them, because sometimes it's kind of like an icebreaker. They've broken the ice, and then you can kind of follow along that same trail. You know what I mean? So
100%.
I've looked at lots of different kayak tournament series and everything. And, kudos to Chad. I know it's been a lot of hard work and a long road for him. And he's laid the groundwork for some really great things. And I've followed him up, I love the way he does things. He's open to people. He's an innovator.
Yes.
And we've got several state trails. We've got the regional events, and then we also have like our 100-inch club. You have to put up 100 inches in a tournament to get you'll get a challenge coin. Like if you were in the military, you know what challenge coins are. So you'll get a 100-inch challenge of this year. So I think it's going to be a real good thing. But the guys seem to be really enjoying it, and I've got them fishing from California to Florida and up as far north as Virginia and all. But I've really met some genuinely good people doing that as well.
Man, it's incredible.
That's what I'm in this business for, is because I want to meet really good people. Now right here. I've met some knuckleheads, but but they're okay knuckleheads. But
Oh yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
because for those who, if you may not be familiar, there is a knucklehead bass fishing series because knucklehead is a term of endearment amongst Chad's followers
right,
and fans. And we do that, once a year. So several teams are formed. Last year we had Team Gramps, Team Chad, Team Fluke Master, and several of us were, competing at the end of all that down at Gunnersville. And, it was a blast, but it was an awesome opportunity for a lot of, folks who follow a lot of these guys on YouTube to get together and have a good time together and do some fishing, and it was really awesome. It's like
yeah.
you were saying about the challenge for the 100-inch club. I don't think I've hit 100 inches in a month long yet,
Oh yeah,
let alone in one tournament.
yeah. Well, I have a region that's called the Big Three, and it's Texas, Florida, and California. And I've got two guys in Texas that are just well, it's been January, February. They put up like 102 and 105, and we're only today's what the 11th, and
Yeah.
one of them's already got 92 inches. Unless he put up more today. I've been on the lake myself today hunting a giant,
Okay.
so I haven't checked the boards today. But I will here in a little while. He's possibly put up more, but man, I'm telling you, those guys right there are forced to be reckoned with.
Oh, I can imagine too.
So I love watching it. It's just as exciting because I'm a paramedic for a living, and there's 1 out of 3 days I can't go fishing. So I
Yeah.
get to
Oh,
watch
gotcha.
others
Yeah.
fish. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
yeah, but what you were kind of telling us about your, I guess you'd say, your introduction to YouTube. Kind of
Mhm.
take us through your YouTube story from the very beginning to 31,000 plus subscribers.
So it all kind of started, my brother and I had tournament fish for a while. And like I said, we were having a bad tournament. And I come home grumbling and griping. And my wife was like, "You got a lot of nerve." And I'm like, "What?" And she says, "You've been gone for like 10 days and you come home complaining." And I was like, "Well, I had a bad tournament." And she was like, "I understand that, but you come home complaining and your own kids don't even know how to fish." And that struck a nerve.
Ooh, that's like a
So
knife.
that's when JT was done with the tournament fishing, and I literally that was it. And I got into coaching little league, and kids were doing football, softball, volleyball, tennis. The focus went to them. But then I sold everything except a couple rods and reels, and then I started taking the kids fishing. Well, years later, we get into some kayaks and, little John boats and things like that. And, then as kids do, they grow up and enlist in the army and then they're gone. So I have 3 sons who are now army veterans, and then a daughter who is a well-traveled nursing student during COVID, who, she now lives down in Dallas. And, I was like, man, I got, I filmed some of their stuff when they were little. And, so I had a channel, but it wasn't until COVID hit that I actually had a friend of ours who's a single mom. And she's like, "Hey, I know you guys like to fish. And, I used to go fishing all the time with my dad, and I knew I really loved it, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know how to teach my son. Can you make me some videos?" So I stopped by on the way home from, because we were at lunch. I stopped by on the way home and I picked up a Zebco combo. And that was the first actual Fishing with Gramps YouTube video, was me just sitting down doing a throwback and thanking my grandpa for teaching me and my brother how to fish. And now I'm going to start teaching other people how to fish. And 3 years, 400 some videos, and 31,000 family fishing fam followers after that. It's just been incredible. I just decided that I was just gonna, take it from there. And it was just, it's constant work. And anybody who does YouTube will tell you it's a lot of work and effort to try to film and look at yourself on a screen and, develop the confidence to be able to sit there and do that. But the more you do anything, the better you get at it. And that's kind of the way it was. I hacked my way through editing videos and I just tried to get a little bit better and teach a little more as the years went on. And then, it was just then we got into fishing more and trying to capture more of our adventures instead of just being like lessons and how to's. And then, so now we do tips, tricks, reviews, and how to's. And as I always say, a whole lot of bass fishing. So it's just been it's been a blessing and just phenomenal growth. And, I see some of the fishing fam has followed us in here tonight. And it's just really awesome for me because, during COVID, and I always thought that my target audience would be like, maybe kids. Like I would, attract some kids who maybe didn't have a father figure, a grandfather figure, like some of the folks the Googans target and all that too. But it turned out to really be a lot of parents and grandparents who have either young kids or, grandchildren that they, want to take out fishing with them. So it's been really kind of cool. I do a little bit of videos for if you're shopping at Walmart for rods and reels, or if you've got guys that that are, as I say, a little more sage in life, a little further along. Maybe you got some arthritis and you want a little lighter stuff, and you got a little more folding money, as my buddies like to tease me about. But I kind of review everything from top to bottom and try to keep it honest. And I think that comes through to a lot of people. That if I tell them something's junk, it's junk. And then if I like it and it's Gramps approved, then I mean it, because it would be something that I would use myself or put in the hands of my granddaughter or one of my sons, or somebody that I really respect.
Yeah. So that's kind of funny that you brought up Walmart, because I do most of my stuff is like just fishing, I do some product reviews, not a whole lot. I've kind of dabbled in that a little bit, but do you feel awkward like going into Walmart, especially Walmart, with your camera, and you're talking to your phone? And, I kind of feel awkward doing that. And then I thought, wait a minute, John, you're in Walmart and you're dressed like a normal person. You don't have pink hair and your pajamas on and house shoes. Yes, they're going to think you're weird.
Yeah. It's like, if I haven't appeared on People of Walmart, then I'm so far so good. And I know if I'm better dressed than half of those folks, I really don't care what people think. I mean, I come about the gift of gab from my grandfather. And so, he was an old Baptist minister and never afraid to tell you what he thought. And I've always kind of been the same way. Whereas, if you meet my brother, he's a little more quiet and subdued, like my father is. But I'm, he is his father's son, and I am my mother and my grandfather's son. So between our two personality, it kind of goes together too. And a lot of folks really see that family side of us, the two brothers coming out when we fish together quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the tornado has blown into my house. My two grandkids are here, and I hear one of them screaming in there. But I've got a couple of pinned comments here for comment here, if I can get it up. It says, what's the best program for editing?
The best program for editing, there's a free one called and these are ones that I haven't moved to yet, but I'm going to give you, if you're going to get started, DaVinci Resolve is actually a free. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but if I was going to tell somebody who was starting today that DaVinci Resolve is free, and a lot of movie studios use it, it's a little bit something to learn, but once you get it down, you're good to go. I think CapCut is another one. I started with one called Filmora from Wondershare, but I ended up buying a lifetime license for it a few years ago, but then they tried to change their licensing and kind of jack some people around. And so I don't really recommend them, even though it was more of the old school Windows movie editor, where it was kind of somewhat simple to use. But I was going to say, if there's somebody that seriously wants to become a YouTuber, DaVinci Resolve would be a good place to start, because it's free and it has all the tools that you want. And there's tons of videos out there for tutorials on how to do things too. But
Yeah.
a lot of more professional level guys use Adobe and things like that. But I'm not. I'm an IT security guy. I used to be a computer programmer, in my older younger days. But I'm all about simple and fast, and not trying to make. I'm not making John B videos, even though I would love to. But yeah, that's one of those
Yeah.
things.
So I use just the iMovies. That's all I've ever tinkered
Yeah.
with. Do you do your own editing? I'm
I
sorry
do
if you
all my.
guys can
Yep, I
hear
do.
those kids
I,
screaming back here. They're little
you
bitty,
you
like,
can't hear anything. I think
okay,
the voice canceling's probably canceled a
okay,
bunch of that out, so you're good
okay.
there. But
But
yeah, it's one of those things where it's my baby. It's I've spent so much time doing it now. It's just part of my nightly routine. So much that I probably work more hours doing this than I do fishing or actually going to work. A lot of the time is just sitting in front of a camera doing stuff and things, and then edit it too. And then if Jeremy does stuff, that I edit it for him and we post that up as well.
that's awesome. So do you find yourself working on editing a particular video for does it take several days, or kind of what's the process on that?
Sometimes, if I'm doing like a sit down review video where I'm talking about a rod, a reel, a bait, or something new, generally, I can do it, and I'll probably shoot it in a night, and then I'll edit and post it the next night. If it's on the water stuff, those take a lot longer because I'm running multiple cameras, trying to find the best sounds, trying to find, all the good scenes and stuff like that. Because I'm one of those guys, I will record 15 hours of footage on the water with like 3 different cameras. And then I've got to go through all that footage and then kind of find the best parts and pieces, the B-roll. This year, I'm actually going to, spend a lot of time to try to make more of the types of videos that I like to watch. So I'm going to be slowing down and actually doing less videos, but I'm trying to make them better. So that'll be the goal this year.
Yeah. I kind of had, I'll just kind of catch you up on this. Like I said, I've been hunting and fishing my whole life, and I'm your age. Like I said, I'll be 54 in October. But back in the 80s, really before YouTube was ever even a thing, or really, I mean, it was back. A lot of the internet stuff was just really kind of talked about,
Yeah.
But I always had a dream of having an outdoor show, you
Yep.
know. And I had, bought the best camera that I could at that time, which was, big VCR tape camera. And,
Oh yeah.
we'd take it hunting. And I've been a bow hunter and stuff my whole life too. I've never, so, I got a lot of those old, VCR tapes, VHS tapes of, bow hunts and few fishing stuff, but it's always been a dream of mine to have my own outdoor show, and YouTube has made that possible.
Oh yeah.
I kind of I'm living my dream. I'm got a podcast going. I got the YouTube channel going, fishing all the time, and able to share it with the world.
Yep.
And able to share people like you, JT, that share their life with the world as far as fishing and stuff goes.
Yeah, that's one of our plans as well. We've got another channel called Hickman Outdoors that we don't have anything on it now, but we plan on getting more back into camping and kayaking and things like that too. So those would be more camping and outdoors videos versus just a pure fishing, because there's an audience for that as well. But we think
Absolutely.
if we go out and we put up camping videos where we're also kayak fishing, we can also bring more people into kayak fishing while we're doing that, because it's like, oh, we can go do this and fish here and
Right.
kind of do a little more too.
Kind of open the kayakers' eyes up to camping and the campers up to kayaking. That's best of both worlds for both people.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, I'm just getting overwhelmed over here with comments. Let's get caught up on this here. Let's see. Do your map research. I think I think they're having a conversation within our conversation.
Yeah,
Do
I do
map
Jeremy's
research.
editing. He does our map study before we go fish tournaments and places.
Well, that's a good trade-off. That's a
Yeah,
good trade-off.
he's very good at looking at Google Earth and the old school maps and breaking stuff down and finding us places to fish.
Yeah. I was looking at Jeremy had made a post up here. Let's see, said y'all were going to Red Crest and finally picking up the bona fides from Chad and rigging them with him Monday and headed home. It sounds like you guys are going to both be busy.
No, it's gonna be crazy. Yeah, I've got kayak stuff laying around since we moved away from Old Town over the winter. I kind of wanted to open back. It was awesome being on the Old Town Pro staff for a year and a little bit. But being a YouTuber, I like being able to discuss various brands and things like that too. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm just a homer for Old Town, even though I will always be, because that was the first real brand of kayaks that I trusted with my life. And I've owned 3 of them over the last few years. But we decided when the Bonafide came out with the PWR 129s, we wanted to try something a little bit different. So we sold the
Yeah.
Old Towns, and we're gonna rig out some new kayaks and see how those service up this year.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting because I'll be looking forward to seeing some videos on those, on
Yeah.
how you rig them out and what your thoughts are on them and all that. Because I'm kind of a bigger fella. I'm about 6'7", wear about a size 15 shoe, and weigh about 300 pounds. So I'm always looking for, a boat that'll hold up a small giant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm a good foot shorter than you are, and probably about the same weight. So yeah, I don't have to worry about leg room, but yeah, weight capacity and things like that. Yeah, I get it too. So,
Yeah.
being a short round dude who's trying to get less round, that's a goal. I was like 344 18 months ago, and I've lost about 70 some pounds.
Well,
And
that's awesome.
I still want to keep working back in the proper direction, because we want to get out and creek and river fish and drag our kayaks in different places. And we think the PWR 129s will be good for doing that, even though I will have it set up where I can run a front motor or a back motor, a couple graphs and the forbidden forward facing sonar while we're out
I
on our,
was,
adventures chasing big fish.
yeah, I was just about to stir the pot with that. So before we do that, before we get into dual motors and forward facing sonar, let's talk about what cameras you guys use. Ryan Murphy from California, he's one of my anglers on the trail, and actually one of the state trail representatives there in California.
Okay.
Want to know what kind of cameras you guys are using?
So I started out with GoPros and used those for years, but I mean, man, it kills me when you get on a 90. It seemed like anytime I get to a 96-degree day, the GoPros would overheat, and it got really old really fast. So it seems like GoPro was never really working, and people are like, well, take the batteries out, run them USB. I have done all of it. It's, you run it naked, you run it plugged into a Dakota lithium power box, or if you got your own USB power coming off your kayak. I am a technical guy, so I'm all about technology, and I understand how a lot of it works. The one thing that kind of helped with the GoPros overheating was using the cheapest Walmart USB cable that you can find, because that literally only transfers data and not so much with or that transfers power versus transferring data. But 2 years ago, I decided to give the DJI Osmo Action cameras a shot. So I have 2 Osmo Action 3s. I picked up an Osmo Action 4 this year, along with the DJI microphones. I've actually got 2 sets of microphones, the originals that Jeremy has, and then I've got the newest ones they just came out with this year. And then I also have a DJI drone that I'm going to be putting into use this year, because I went through over the winter last year working on getting my drone pilot's license. So that's my like outdoor setups, and I use the various Yak Attack, Panfish Pro, and I've got a few of those because we like to rig it up on, and keep everything in the picture for both me and Jeremy. For my indoor studio stuff, I use a Canon M50. I've got a microphone that sits on top of that, and I've got 2 or 3 different lenses. depending on, what or how I'm shooting. If I'm shooting like this week, I shot a couple of knot tying videos where I've got my, M50 up here facing down onto my table. And, you got to get the focus just right on a lot of that too. But, and then plus the drone. So, I mean, I've, if you're going to be a YouTuber, just understand the fact that you're going to drop your cameras in the water and you're never going to see them again. It's just, it happens. I mean, it's an expense. And I've actually had one of my Canon M50s, my original Canon M50, got waterlogged in the boat one day. It happens. I mean, it does happen. But that's pretty much, I think, all of my camera gear. For doing live streams, I use a lot of the Elgato stuff. So I've got Elgato lights. I've got their way too expensive webcam for actually shooting 1080p video here in the studio. And then I've got a Rode USB microphone, but I've also got an Elgato as a backup. But this is one of the USB setups that I found actually works really the best as far as audio goes without getting a mixing board and getting into too much of all of that too.
Yeah. So Jay says GoPro will overheat on a 70-degree day. You ought to be down here in Texas when it gets about 112 or 113 and there ain't no wind on the water. Like you said, the only way I've internal power, and I tell you what else I've done. Not a lot of people know this, but I made a little tinfoil hat for mine.
Yep.
And just you can stick a couple of popsicle sticks down in the side of it and make you a little tinfoil shield for the top of it, and you'd be surprised at how much cooler that'll keep them. But boy, you sure do get
because
some
if you
weird
can
looks
keep the
from
sun
people.
off of the glass that's on like the front and back of the cameras these days too, I mean that helps. And we've got friends that stream on Twitch, and so they've got even little radiator fans, blowing on the back of their phones that they're using for that too. But it's always interesting. It's like, it's like Andy said, nothing like yelling at your cameras while you're on your water. But I got rid of all the voice command stuff. I have 512 gig memory cards, and I let them run all day. And it's just, that's a lot to sort later, but I do not, I've missed so much footage from, certain things because I didn't start and stop a camera at a certain time. And so I was like, never again. I'm just starting them and I'm running them, and whatever happens, I'll go through and dig through that footage later. But that's one of my things.
Yeah. That's, I use the old, believe it or not, the old Hero. They work great for me. They're cheap. If I lose one of them, I hadn't lost a whole lot, because you can buy those things used like new condition, literally for like $30 on eBay. A lot of times they'll have batteries with them and stuff. Sometimes they won't, but
the oldest GoPros still have the mic jacks in them where you don't have to have an external dongle that'll break, 50 times. Right. That was another thing that used to drive me insane.
Yep. All right. So let's move on to the elephant in the room here. Let's see here. So we've already got one here. GDH Fishing want to know, what graphs do y'all use?
So I'll do the basic history, because with as our craft have grown. I started off in a Sun Dolphin, like 14-footer sit on top with a Garmin Striker 4. I had a couple of Walmart, red and blue kayaks for the kids to fish out of. I think Jeremy had a Walmart boat that he started in and then moved into like one of the Lifetime Tetons. And then my next actual fishing kayak was the Old Town Topwater 10-footer. And then, I had like a Humminbird 5-inch something on that. And then it's just kind of grown over time. Whereas last year when I was with Old Town, sponsored by Johnson Outdoors, I went to the big Humminbird Helix 10 and the Mega Live forward facing. And I never really did. Everybody talks about like forward facing is so easy to catch fish. Yeah, I'm sure it is if you take the time to actually learn how to use it. But I was more about the side imaging and the maps. You know, I had the forward facing, but just didn't use it much. Prior to that, when actually before I joined Old Town, I had the Garmin 93 SV with the live scope, the LVS 32, and I was just kind of getting used to using it when I switched brands to be the brand guy with that Johnson Outdoors. This year, I'm going back to a Garmin. I've got a what is it, the 106 SV on the way. It's the 10-inch one. I think they just dropped the Ultra 2, and then I've got the Live Scope 2 transducer coming with it, the LVS 34. Because I truly want to get into that game. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say I want to go chase big fish. But I heard a great podcast from Drew Gill on Tackle Talk this weekend, talking about it's not so much about having the forward facing for seeing and catching those fish, but learning about fish behavior, how they respond to baits and other fish and things around them too. So I'm really looking forward to getting that Garmin set up on the new kayak and really learning it and getting dialed in with it, just so I can just see that much better and learn more about separating crappie from bass and things like that too, because I've been known to catch a crappie or two and have a fish fry every now and then. So hey, if I can speed things up, we can sure do that too. But
That's
yeah,
right.
I'm a technology guy, so I'm all about soaking it up, and I can't wait for it to get in. So I'm thinking the new Garmin's going to run live scope, and then the Humminbird 10 is going to be my down and side and maps as well. So
yeah,
I really plan on stacking it up and having both big graphs on the kayak. Like I said, this build is going to be completely overboard.
that's awesome. That's awesome. You know, I'm looking to build me a new kayak here in the near future. I'm fishing out of a 11.5 Outlaw. It's a great little boat, and I mean, like I said, I'm a little giant, and I can stand up in it and paddle around,
Oh yeah.
and set the hook on fish, and knock on wood, I've only turned it over one time and only lost one rod in the whole fiasco, but I did later find that rod.
Well, that's good.
But I'm just looking for something that's more my size, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
You take a guy just like my buddy Mitchell that I went out with today, bought a new bass cat, and I mean, God, that thing is so nice. That thing is just like sitting on a massage chair, and it was just awesome. I'm so proud of him, but I'm 6'7", and they don't make bass boats for people that are 6'7". I got over there and sat behind the console, and I felt like I was crawling into my old Corvette I had back in the 90s,
Knees up in your chin.
Yeah.
And yeah.
They just don't make bass boats for us little giants.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I mean, I know a lot of big dudes that love that new Canoe Unlimited, and just they load it down, and it's like a baby bass boat in itself with all the capacity that you can put in those things too. Plus, for you, plenty of leg room.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I'm looking at. I'm looking at it, or I'm looking at a Hobie. I've never owned a Hobie. I've piloted a Hobie a time or two.
Yep.
I really, really like them. They feel really sturdy. I know they've had some issues, but what kayak company hasn't,
Yeah.
But I really, really like the new Canoe. I'm leaning more to that side. So,
yeah, people ask, and I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are sponsored by Hobie, so it still pains me. Sure, they moved their factory to Mexico. They've still got cracking problems. They've still got warranty issues. I mean, I have to look at, I have to look across the board and say, Old Town's been here over 100 years. They make the 136. That's be perfect for guys like you. But then New Canoe is, under Big Adventures brand there in North Carolina, I think it is. And, Big Adventures is building the new canoes, the natives, and the bona fides now. And so at least you have more, I won't say local support, but then again, being in Texas, Mexico's right across the border too.
hey, a lot of us already here. So
yeah,
we won't bring that into the conversation.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but I've always said, they're going to have a high speed, Christine Fisher put out a video about the fact that they're going to have a modern state of the art, facility But I've also heard things like that they're going to go focus more on the recreational angler too. So, and they're focusing on putting boats in the big box stores. But it's funny when you meet friends in the kayaking industry, you kind of hear these things in the background. But you just never know either. But that's the good thing about it. If you buy it and you don't, you have issues with it, you can always go buy something else.
There you go. That's why you and your brother and your children and your ancestors, as well as my ancestors, gave up part of their life for
Yep.
our freedom. And by the way, we appreciate that to you and your family. And my father was in the military, and I thought I wanted to go in the military when I got out of high school just because my dad had done it. And he said, just don't do that. He just discouraged me from it. And I have mad respect for my father. And I didn't do it because he asked me not to. But
Yeah.
it's something that I've always wished that I would have done, but I would never go against his wishes.
I think my dad told me and my brother the same thing, and we did what we wanted to do. And then I think I had the same conversation with my 3 sons, and they did what they wanted to do. So, I mean, I know how it goes. And my wife was also an Army veteran too. But somebody was asking, is Old Town coming out with a new kayak anytime soon? I think the focus more right now is colors, things like that. But again, I've left the Old Town Pro staff, so I don't know what they currently have, cooking or in the books. I'm thinking some of the things that I was heard that they were going to be doing maybe some updates on some of the lines that they've still had, some stuff that I've been asking for the last couple of years. But I don't know if there's going to be anything new and groundbreaking coming out. I think the big focus right now is on their EPDL system that they put in the like more of a saltwater type boat.
Yeah. Ryan Murphy's talking kayaks here, so I know we're just kind of all over the board, but I'm enjoying it. I'm having a really good time talking with you guys and reading all these comments. But it says I think Titan X is probably the best available personally.
I can see that. I mean, it's a very heavy kayak, but if you are somebody who has to have pedals, I get that. Like Jeremy and I, because Jeremy, I've got bad back and bad knee, and Jeremy's only got one good arm. And so paddling for him is not really an option except for, maybe, kind of managing direction going up or down a river. So this year we're actually going to motorize our PWRs. But for him to give up paddles or for him to give up pedals, because the PWR 129 is a lot lighter than the Titan X, you got things like that to consider as well. So, we want to actually have creek boats and river boats and lake boats all in the same boat.
All on the same platform.
Yeah. And a lot of times people say, well, then just get an RVR and do this. And then just, I want one. That's my baby. I've kind of, I've always done that with my Old Town. I mean, I drug that thing through the hills and into creeks and in places it probably shouldn't have been, but did it anyway. But yeah, the Titan X was the kayak that we both planned on buying until Bonafide came out with the PWR 129. It was like, ooh, it's my true, to me, that's like a real build a boat too. So that's kind of what our thing was. The weight of it being lighter than the Titan X versus the Titan X being a true battle tank.
Right. So on that boat you're getting, how are you guys going to power those? Because I know you said both front and back motors. You were going to.
So I kind of. Jeremy and I do things a little bit differently. He lives on a fixed budget, and he doesn't go as crazy. He doesn't go as crazy with gear and technology as I do. So his focus is the NK 300 propelling his. I've got an XI3 with a battery for it. I'm going to have an NK 300 with a battery for it. And so I will literally, based on wherever we're fishing, I will build a boat for that situation. So awesome. If, he likes running the side scanning down, hasn't moved to live scope and all that yet. He keeps it a little simpler and focuses on the fishing. I'm the dork that's out there that's trying to catch every little thing that I can see on the screen. Probably waste way too much time to do that. But, I'm going to be about that life this year. I want to really learn that technology. But again, I want to be able to build the boat that I want, whether we're going creek fishing and I've got the boondocks installed and we're, rolling them down with no electronics and no motors and just paddling down a creek with, a couple rods and keeping it simple, or, fishing a big lake that I want to be spot locked out in the middle of nowhere, trying to find those deep fish, or fishing a river like the Susquehanna and, needing that extra horsepower to, push us up the river as well. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my, it's gonna it's gonna be my kind of do everything boat.
So, if you had one piece of advice that you had to give somebody, this is just kind of a broad question, to whether that be somebody that's brand new getting into kayaking or if they've been into kayaking for a while, one piece of advice about being a fisherman, what would that piece of advice be?
Oh, I always tell everybody you have to wear a PFD. A lot of people, until they experience it or have something happen to them or somebody they know, or they read about somebody in the local paper, there's no excuse. I'm a big, round, heavy dude, and I'm one of those guys that's like a polar bear. I am never cold. I'm always hot, but I will 100% always wear a PFD. You're just never too hot not to wear it, and you never know when something's going to happen when you hit a stump and get flipped. You could bang your head on a rock or a stump and knock yourself out. You just don't know. But it's safety has got to be first, because you don't want to take something that was the joy of your life and have that be the kind of have that be like the ruin, for your family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was out doing what he loved, but he didn't bother to take care of that one little piece, so
And
that's,
something totally preventable.
yep, 100%,
Yeah. I remember last year, it was about this time. It was in the springtime of the year. And like I told you, I'm a paramedic, and I'm around Lake Fork a lot. And we got a call. It blew up. It was the most beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. And, we're just south of that Red River. And I don't know, there's something about that Red River. Man, those storms will build up and stack up right there above it. And it's like somebody just pulls a pin and they head south with a vengeance. And this kid was out in Lake Fork, a mile from shore, in a kayak, and was bass fishing on Republic Hump, for those of you that know where that's at. And it just, with no warning, I mean, it blew up the storm like you would not believe. And we actually got a call for a kayaker in the water. And when we got there, actually we found him, and he was wearing his PFD, thank God, because there was 4-foot rollers out there. And of course he had lost everything, kayak, fishing gear. I mean,
yeah.
he literally swam a mile to shore in those 4-foot rollers. And I told him, I said, man, I'm so glad to see you wearing a life jacket, because I'm telling you right now, if you wouldn't have had that life jacket on, we would be doing a recovery right now. We wouldn't be talking to you. So I agree with you. That's the most important piece of equipment on a kayak. But it doesn't do you any good if it's not on you and on you properly.
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just, put it in the kayak with me and I'll have it here if I need it. That doesn't work that way all the time.
It's kind of like putting your seatbelt on right before you have a car accident. You
Yep.
it just don't work that way.
Yep.
But well, JT, we've been on about an hour, and I know you're a busy man and got a lot of things coming up in the next few days. So I tell you what, though, we are going to definitely have to do this again. I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, all the comments from all these folks that are on my side and your side. And I do have this set up to where you can stream it as well. Meant to tell you that earlier. But anyhow, I
Yeah, we'll have to
appreciate
do a
you.
matchup next time. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, that'd be awesome. So we'll do that, but we definitely got to do this again. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got so many more questions for you, but I know you're busy, and I don't want to keep you any longer. But we'll do it. I'll get with you in the next day or two, and we'll set up another time, and we'll have a part 2 of this,
There we go.
and see if that leads to a part 3 or whatever. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
100%.
I really, really have enjoyed you being on here. I can't thank you enough. It's just been a real joy. But I hope you guys enjoy the Red Crest, and I want to wish you guys safe travels and all that good stuff, getting your kayaks all rigged up and getting back home. And I'm looking forward to seeing those videos.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, that's one thing that's killing me is not being on the water this early in the year. I think I've been out one time in my boat and I was just like, I just don't have time. I've got so many things to do.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, all right. Once again, I appreciate you being on here. Just be thinking of some dates in the next, month or something. I know it's getting to be a busy time of year for everybody, but if I could just squeeze you in for one evening or something.
Yeah, maybe catch us like, in the third week of April or so after we're back from the national championship. We can talk a little bit about that. I'll have some seat time in the boat in the kayak by then, so I'll be able to tell you all about it too. So that'd be great.
That'll be awesome. We'll just we'll look at that and we'll try to get together and get a date for that, and we'll make plans for that. So maybe around the third week of April, I'll look and see what days I've got available, and I'll shoot you a couple, 3 dates, and we'll bring your brother on too. Be nice to meet him and just all kind of get together and just chew the fat.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, brother.
He would love to come on and talk about Lake Fork. Trust me.
Absolutely. We'll do that next time. We'll have all 3 of us on. I'll look at those dates and I'll shoot y'all some dates to look at, and y'all can mill over that over the next few days and see what will work for you, and for sure when y'all come to Texas, be sure and hit me up and let's go do some fishing and meet face to face, and
yes sir,
put a hand in a hand and have a handshake. You know what I mean?
Got that right. Yep.
All right, JT, I appreciate you. Safe travels, and God bless you guys, okay?
All right. Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, guys, that was JT Hickman of Fishing with Gramps. Man, what a great conversation. I really enjoyed that with JT. You guys be sure and slide over there to Fishing with Gramps on YouTube. If you haven't dropped him a subscribe, go ahead and do that. Don't forget to turn on that notifications bell and give him a thumbs up on the videos when you watch them. Let him know that you appreciate what he's doing. You appreciate the time that he puts into the filming, the editing, and the production of those videos. Guys, he's got some great videos. I'm telling you, he's got everything from putting together a Zebco 33 to, just anything you want to know about kayak fishing, bass fishing in general. Y'all go and check him out. Guys, if you hadn't dropped us a subscribe here on Bass Fishing with Greenfish Nation, I'd really appreciate that you do that. Don't forget that notifications bell. And if you see something we did that you like, drop us a comment, give us a thumbs up, let us know. Until next time, guys, I'm John. I want to wish you guys all tight lines.
Thank you again for joining our podcast. We appreciate your continued support. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Bass Fishing with Greenfish Nation. Check us out on Facebook at the group Greenfish Nation Kayak Tournament Series, Trails and Challenges. We can also be found on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok under the handle Greenfish Nation. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm John, and I want to wish you tight lines, guys.